Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wool and Hearth podcast. My name's Diane, and today's episode is going to be all about yarn, different types of yarn. We're going to do a kind of a deep dive into different types that you can get, and then the different weight options. So let's just dive right into it. Why don't you grab a cup of your favorite drink and join me as a hearth today? All right. So types of yarn. There are, let's see, I would say six different types of yarn that you can choose from. And then under those there's different subsets which we'll also be talking about. So the first big one, here we are, is wool. You can get merino wool, alpaca, Shetland, lamb's wool, cashmere. There's different novelty types which we'll be talking about in a little bit. They are all wool, and there's so many great properties to wool, but it has memory, and it does great in wet weather, cold, heat. It wicks away moisture. So even in the summer, if you have wool socks, it helps keep your feet dry and warm, whether it's cold and wet or warm and wet. It's really just an amazing fiber. And the next one is cotton. There's a couple different types. Mercerized cotton is shiny, it's strong, it's made for lace work. Unmercerized has a more rustic look to it. It's soft. You can use it for clothes or something like dishcloths. I don't use cotton very often, but my grandmother used to make dishcloths all the time. My cousin makes them now, and they use cotton, 100% cotton for that. You can get organic cotton, or Pima cotton is another option. It has a smooth texture to it. You can use it for baby clothes or summer clothes. A lot of times people use cotton for babies because it is soft, and people generally are not allergic to it, where some people could have a wool allergy. Cotton especially is very soft for babies. The next type of yarn that you can buy is acrylic, and there are basically two options. You can get 100% acrylic or an acrylic blend. I know people in the knitting world, people have very strong opinions about acrylic wool because it's not a natural fiber. I generally don't use acrylic. I just enjoy the feel of, the natural fibers better. I like how it knits. But the fact is that I have a lot of nieces and nephews who are under the age of 10. And sometimes for kids, it's easier to use an acrylic if you're giving someone a gift. No, they can't throw it in the dryer, but it's easily washable. And before everyone who knits says the same, you can do the same thing with wool. You certainly can. You can get superwash wool. It's generally very affordable. Same with acrylic. If you don't want to use acrylic at all, I'm not going to, chase after you with a pitchfork. I have no preference really one way or the other. I generally don't use it, but I have because my daughter doesn't like the way that wool feels. For the mermaid blanket that I made her, I used acrylic because she just does not like the feel of wool. And I've learned that it is what it is, so I knit with acrylic for her. I have used blends in blankets. The blankets that I've been making for my nieces and nephews. There's a blanket by Expression Fiber Arts called Blanket for You. It's a free pattern. You can get it off her website. I don't know, I think you can find it on Ravelry, but you can definitely get it on her website. Again, I'm not paid for advertising. Her yarn is fantastic. In her newsletter, she does a free pattern on Fridays. The blanket is super simple. It's a really nice pattern. It's just straight knitting and purling maybe, I can't remember. But it uses 3 or 4 strands of yarn at a time. And so in that pattern, I've made three at this point of that same pattern. I just had a variety of yarn that I was using. Most of it was wool, some of it was acrylic that I was trying to get rid of. So whether you want to use it or not, it's very affordable, it's durable, and the acrylic blends, you can get it with nylon, with wool. There's usually a variety of things that it's blended with, and you can find it at Joann's, Michael's. Most of the craft stores that are not specifically a yarn shop will have acrylic. I mean, they'll have some 100% wool, but a lot of it will be acrylic or acrylic blends. There's nothing wrong with it. It's affordable, and if that's what you can find, knit away. I'm not here to shame you one way or the other. I'm just showing you it's an option. And again, do not put it in the dryer. Do not try to iron it because it will melt. There are instructions on the labels, just so you know. All right. Some other blends that you can get are cotton linen, which is good for summer clothes. You can do a merino wool with silk, which is it's a delicious blend. I don't know how else to, it is so soft and it's so delicate, and you can use it. It's great for shawls or sweaters. It's like this magical blend. It's amazing. And then bamboo and cotton is also a good one. You can use it again for clothes. It's very, very drapey. The thing with cotton, and I haven't actually knit with linen, but I believe it's similar from what I remember one of the ladies in my knitting group talking about, is that it stretches generally. And so once you're wearing it, it will expand. Where wool it just kind of comes back. It keeps its shape a little bit better. Cotton does stretch, and it's not as forgiving. It's not as stretchy. Maybe that sounds contradictory, but when you're knitting with cotton, there's not as much give to it. So you have to take that into account as far as fit. If you're making clothes, then as you wear it, it stretches out, but it doesn't come back into shape, whereas wool generally gives you a little bit of stretch and it keeps its shape better. So anyway, those are the different kinds of blends that you can have, and I've used silk and merino. I've used bamboo cotton. It was for a baby sweater, the bamboo cotton. um Again, I'm not a huge fan of knitting with cotton, but a lot of people love it. A lot of people use it. And again, people use it a lot for baby clothes. Novelty is another grouping here. You have boucle yarn, which is textured and sort of bumpy as you're knitting it. I have not used it, but I have seen it in the stores. Chenille, again, I have not used, but it's very velvety and soft and is a more bulky yarn, if I remember correctly. There's a ribbon tape type of yarn, which is more flat and wide. And then you have the fuzzy, fluffy, which, like, I don't know if they still have it, but I remember I used to work at a craft store when I was in high school, and they had they used it for scarves, but it looked like little fingers, but it was just like, I can't even remember what the name of it was, but it was a novelty yarn. You knit it with something else and it filled out, and it was really soft and spiky almost, but it was very interesting. So you have that kind of thing. Then specialty yarns are things like mohair, linen, yak wool. I mean, there's all kinds of things. The list goes on and on. But those are considered more specialty fibers. I have not knit it with hemp, angora, or linen. I have knit with mohair, and generally you're going to knit it with something else. So you could do 2 strands of mohair if you wanted. You can do mohair and wool. It gives that soft fuzzy texture, and it's warm. It's a little bit of a pain to knit with, or pull out if you mess up, but it is really nice, and again feels very soft once you've knit with it. All right, let's go on to the different weights. So as you pick your patterns and as you start looking into knitting, you're going to notice on your pattern it's going to say, whatever the yarn is and the weight. It's basically how thin or thick the yarn is, and how finely it's spun. Well, you're going to start with lace weight, which is a very fine yarn. You're going to use it for shawls, scarves, for lace work. It's this very, very thin. You get roughly 18 to 23 stitches per 4 inches, and that's going to depend on your knitting style and the yarn you're using, which is a lot of times why people really recommend checking your gauge, because that's very important when you're looking at how much yarn to buy. Let's say you're a really tight knitter, you might use more yarn than the recipe, the pattern calls for. Fingering comes next. A lot of times you use it for socks. That's a big one that people use fingering for. Baby clothes, shawls. Mix it with another yarn if you wanted to create, say you had two 2 skeins of fingering yarn and you wanted to use it to create it more like a DK weight, you could hold them together and knit that way. You can hold it with something else to create a heavier weight, but there's so much you can do with fingering. Sweaters, blankets, like I'm using fingering yarn for my high-low temp blanket that I'm making. There's just so many ways you can use fingering yarn. It's great to have. And again, you're going to get about 14 to 18 stitches per 4 inches. The next one is sport weight yarn, which is a lightweight yarn. You can use it for sweaters, hats, baby clothes. Again, I mean, you can use all of this yarn, any of the weights for all of these different things. I'm gonna mention them because you can use them for that, but you can pretty much use any of these. Sport weight is just between fingering and a DK weight, and you're going to get 12 to 16 stitches per 4 inches. And then you come up with DK. DK is a light to medium yarn. It's so versatile. I use DK for so many things. I use it constantly. DK and worsted and fingering are the 3 that I use most often. But I love DK because you can mix and match it. You can do 2 strands, and you can use it for sweaters or blankets, for hats. I mean, you can use it for so many things. I love using it. Worsted is heavier, medium weight yarn. You can use it for, again, the same things: blankets, scarves, mittens, sweaters. You can use it for anything that you want to make, pretty much. And you're going to get 9 to 11 stitches per 4 inches. So DK is just a little bit between. The stitch count that I had was for 1 inch, so I didn't add that in there, but it's right between sport and worsted. And then bulky yarn, again, we're just getting thicker, and you're going to get 6 to 8 stitches per 4 inches. You can use it for the same sorts of things. A lot of bulky yarn is great for blankets because it knits up faster, but you can use it for the same things. And then you're going to come to super bulky, which most often I think people use for more accessory type things like pillows or blankets. Because yarn is so thick, it wouldn't necessarily work well for a scarf. It's definitely not going to work for a shawl. Maybe a hat, but again, the space that you're knitting is so small that it's going to be really awkward. So super bulky and jumbo, again, are going to be things that you're going to use for accessories like blankets and pillows, that kind of thing. With a super bulky, you're going to get 5 to 6 stitches per 4 inches. Then jumbo is like ultra chunky. I think people, if you've ever seen videos of it, I think they use the jumbo yarn for arm knitting. I've never done it, but I believe they have those blankets that you can do with arm knitting, and they use that size yarn because it's just so big. And you're going to get maybe 4 to 5 stitches per 4 inches. So that's the different weights that you can get and the different yarns. I would love to hear what you guys use, what your favorite kind of yarn is, what weights you enjoy knitting with, and if you have any yarns that you either really love, really hate. If you're gonna come at me for the acrylic yarn conversation, feel free, it's okay. But again, everything has its place. I understand the need to spend less money on yarn. I understand kids who are going to get dirty and you want to just be able to throw something in the washing machine. I get it. And I said, one of the pluses is with wool anyway, if you get superwash, you can certainly throw it in the washing machine, and you're not going to want to put it in the dryer. You're not going to want to put any of these in the dryer unless you are specifically trying to felt something. I've done it on accident with mittens, and the first time it wasn't too bad. The second time they went through, they definitely shrunk. So, you can certainly get cheaper yarn. Cascade, they have a superwash option, which is affordable. It's really just a preference. But if you are looking to move away from acrylic and you want good, more affordable options when it comes to wool, superwash is a great way to do that. Depending on the brand, you're going to get about 200-ish yards per skein. You can throw it in the washing machine. You're just going to want to line dry it. It's great for kids. I've used it and I've done it both ways. So anyway, I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts, what your favorite things are. And as always, we will be back next week. We're gonna do a little bit of a shift though. We're not gonna be talking knitting in the next episode. We're gonna move into gardening for a little bit, and then we'll come back to knitting probably in about 3 or 4 episodes. So if you want to skip the gardening talk, feel free and come back for knitting later. But we're going to do the next few episodes on gardening and garden planning, why you garden. So if you're interested in that, or you just want to hear me ramble on again, come on back. We'd love to have you. Until next time, happy knitting.